Are we live? Hey, is this thing on? Hey, folks, welcome to another live stream episode of the Cloud Security Podcast by Google. We are coming to you live from the show floor here at Google Cloud Next 2024. We are joined today by an old colleague of mine, a good friend, Sean. Sean, thank you for joining us. Sean and I go way back, folks. We actually worked together. Sean, way back in the day. Sean, what?
I'm here to meet old friends, learn about security. I gave a talk earlier today on AI security and privacy.
You gave a talk?
Some people care about that. It appears.
Do we care about that?
And just a few
I
government
think we all do.
who want the world to be safer. That was
do,
exciting.
Okay. Is that safer
Right.
spelled with A?
I never thought of that.
Safer spelled with AI in the middle. You know everything already.
I know everything.
It's also been exciting to see
That's great. That's great.
startups and Google product teams with all the AI features. Everything's AI this year. Cloud is AI
Including
now.
cloud. Cloud is AI now.
Spelled with an AI somewhere.
Security is AI now.
Oh, cloud is now spelled with AI?
No.
You know, Corey Quinn would make fun of us on Twitter for that.
Corey Quinn probably should.
And he probably should. Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, so you gave a talk. What have you seen that's interesting? What are you
in the
impressed
talk?
by?
Not in the talk itself, but at Cloud Next, I think it's actually really impressive to see the AI features from various parts of Google and from the startups. Like, I was sharing this with one of my colleagues yesterday. That even though the technical novelty is not quite there in the Gen AI features we're seeing out there, but just in exploring the various use cases and features that are being launched, the utility is there. So even at this early stage of Gen AI development and productization, I can see how tons of value is being created for a whole host of stakeholders. Customer experiences, sales, marketing, productivity.
What's something like particular and specific here? Like, what's the coolest single thing you've seen for that? What's the most productivity? You're like, wow, I can't believe they did that.
Nothing comes to mind around anything that surprised me. Because, again, I talk about this. We've been surprised over the last 10 years at Google. I'm not so surprised by the features that are coming out in the external world today. But there were elements of the Workspace keynote that I was delighted by. Our video app with generative video looks very cool. The easy to replicate enterprise workflows that Workspace is building out, and the documents and agents that we are building out with AI are very cool and actually very useful. Like, I use them on a day-to-day basis right now. So there are innovations coming out.
Really?
The innovations still are very much the purview of the major platform providers that have been investing in AI for a long time. I think that's going to start changing, but still, the stuff that's coming out of the startups, the other smaller product companies, is very useful, but at early stage.
One of the things that really impressed me in Vids is how you can just add a document. It's so easy. There's no integration. There's no let me glue stuff together. There's no assign permissions. It just works. Right out of the box.
Yeah, some of the stuff, we know it's secure on the back end, respects privacy, and just works, which is kind of epic. And I think that I don't want to put a vendor hat on, but we're kind of in a unique role to actually do that, something that's secure and usable. I don't know,
on that, like a demo that was at the keynote yesterday was somebody receiving an email about follow these compliance policies, look at this video for details, and then them saying, are we in compliance with the policies represented in this video? And then being able to transcribe that video with an automated agent and compare it to a compliance policy that they already have in the organization. I said, from a security perspective, it's so useful.
Reducing toil, which is really nobody's favorite task to think about, and of course, you are quite
from a Google perspective, I'm like, we're going to actually be doing that next week. I'm immediately going to use this feature,
that's
via
real.
Google feature,
Exactly.
our customers will then,
Yes.
of course, find it easier. So very cool stuff.
That's awesome.
So I want to switch subject to, well, back to AI, I guess, and actually cloud and
I want to
AI.
switch subjects to our
things in
current
AI.
subject.
From AI to like AI. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I know, like fine. We are replicating the meme about like it being all about AI. But actually, how about AI in the cloud? A lot of security, even including the stuff we covered in the talk, apply to artificial intelligence, Gen AI in general. But we assume, probably correctly, that most people, most organizations that use AI,
Yes.
that backends to the cloud, that runs in the cloud. So, what are the unique challenges from, say, from your experience, securing AI in
Well,
cloud
you know,
environment?
firstly, just to kind of warm up on this topic, I think the benefits of using clouds are enormous and evident to me, but maybe not evident to everybody, and worth talking about. Like our decades-long investment in building AI and the practices for security and privacy that emerge from that, and our pre-existing hardening of the foundational infrastructure, on top of which we're now hardening our AI-specific infrastructure, are things that require a lot of investment, frankly, hundreds of millions of dollars, billions of dollars of investment and expertise over a long time. And now, like, we know this because we want to keep Google secure, and now I can see the benefits of an external customer adopting those benefits as well. Now, that's not.
So there's kind of mundane stuff in terms of like headlines. Secure infrastructure sounds kind of maybe not boring but mundane. But in terms of practical contribution to a secure
It's huge.
AI experience,
It's huge.
actually huge.
I think with AI, what I tell my teams is all of our boring, grungy security and privacy practices are sexy and important again. You know, people didn't really want to.
I think we even mentioned data governance in the talk, and it's a topic that puts people to.
Yeah.
But it's actually important
That's
here.
Yes.
yes.
And it actually works out of the box.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. That's kind of magical. I think
Yeah,
that using
that's right.
anti-phrase,
That's right.
that's almost
That's right.
magical.
Yeah.
I love that. That's great. That's great. So what else do you get like for free with Cloud? How else does Cloud
Well,
give you
you know,
advantage out of the box?
Name a topic. So, hardware supply chains. It's a topic that our governments worry about today. This is New York Times headlines. Our national security policies are being written about that. While we at Google and frankly all of the major cloud providers have worried about this for a long, long time. This is particularly important in the case of AI. Again, where I was just telling my team yesterday, listening to the Google Cloud Next keynote talk, silicon is sexy again. When was the last time it's like so much emphasis on silicon? And when we're designing our own silicon, when we're acquiring silicon, we have tons of teams focusing on the security of silicon. But then you go to like less kind of niche topics, software supply chain, still very mundane. We've been focused on that. Now we're applying that to cloud. Data governance, very boring old topic. We're applying that to cloud.
Yes.
Yeah.
That was just my pet peeve, frankly, because it's like something that was like really, really sleep-inducing suddenly became like almost at the center
That's right.
of.
And then they
secure
get
AI
into the
experience.
sexier topics, even things like prompt injection attacks, things like model testing and tuning against adversarial attacks. We call it model hardening.
Or even model theft. That's actually kind of cool in a costly, portable, easy to steal, easy to get value from if you steal it. Like that. Actually, Tim was the one who opened my mind to this, like that it's so ideally suited for being stolen.
Yeah, I think model theft is another one where I think it's really important to focus on right now. I think the implications, both from a security perspective, an IP risk perspective, which a financial perspective, and a compliance perspective, are still being debated out there. And that is the trade-offs are being debated in various organizations. But one thing that everybody agrees on is models and associated artifacts like weights and code and harnesses around models are really, really important to protect. And certainly we at Google are focused on that. By the way, the trade-offs are around the rapidly evolving landscape of models. Lots of models are open sourced when they're just available to everybody. Now, what is the IP protection?
Why bother stealing?
Which solves the model theft problem for that model. That is, we can check.
You can't steal what's free.
Yes, exactly. So that part is. But what about like distributed
fine-tuning on top of it?
So if you have fine-tuning data as in your model, if the model is personalized to your organization, perhaps in the future personalized to your individual self, then the model becomes very, very precious to you. Like then the model represents your organization, represents yourself, and all of the security and privacy risks that will come from some intelligence organization just digging through all of your documents and backlogs to understand everything about you are now centered in the model. The same risk appear in the model, and therefore you should value it like.
I think you're scaring me actually. Like I'm starting to think like this is actually like we didn't scare enough people during our talk, but now suddenly we shifted some of the scare into a podcast. Like personalized model that has the data. That again, the data security challenge.
That's right.
Again,
the more
higher,
personalized the model is, the more it knows about your organization or yourself, the more the security and privacy challenges are. But frankly, we're not there yet in the industry. Right now, what we are deploying widely in the industry, including in Google Cloud, are general purpose models that are the same models available to everybody, is shared by everybody. And any kind of fine tuning, it's not really fine tuning, any kind of customization of the model's behavior is actually happening mostly outside of the model and augmenting the model, and we are keeping those very contained and separate. And general purpose models represent general purpose risks and not specific risks to organizations and individuals.
That's really interesting. So we're talking about risk. That's really interesting. So we're talking about risk. Your talk talked about risk. Was this one of them? And what
we talked about the sexy, exciting topic of prompt injection and the risks it entails.
Okay. Tell the listeners what prompt injection is. Is that like SQL injection? But from
God, no! Don't go there. This trivializes a lot of really exciting stuff. But I've seen that on the internet many times. There's similarities, differences. Okay, fine. I'll outsource this.
John, tell us. Why is it not
SQL injection but from model? It's not a bad place to start.
Apparently, I think
the parallel is that an attacker would try to inject something malicious in a prompt that otherwise seems fairly innocuous to try and change the model's behavior and get it to do things it was designed not to do. That's what prompt injection is about.
Okay.
Pop up all the content of the database or get the model to...
That's a little like SQL injection.
Exactly.
But he said yes, but he should have said no, not like reveal the content of the database.
Unless I'm right, in which case I'm leading
provide responses that the model shouldn't provide. Like, for example, Anton and I gave in our talk today was a very innocuous model designed by a remote work company on Twitter to provide very helpful, encouraging responses to tweets about remote work. And somebody figured out how to do a prompt injection attack very simply to get the Twitter bot from this company to say provide threatening messages against the president. Okay.
Right, which was sort of hilarious, but like also in terms of like sheer loss amount, probably not that bad. Like they probably unlaunched the bot, I'm sure.
That's like a stupid bot in the first place. Whose idea was to put that bot out?
There are many bots like that for entertainment purposes. But imagine a more threatening scenario where great. Done. Job done. Podcast over.
Good.
Yeah. Okay, great.
Well,
okay, so we've got prompt injection. What else do we have?
Let me just quickly say, the reason it's different from SQL injection attacks is because with SQL, you're providing a very structured input to the system. With prompt injection, you're just talking. Like if you were an LLM, I could be prompt injecting you by just inserting certain phrases in my conversation with you. And that's what makes prompt injection quite scary.
We lost Sean altogether from the platform, so we need to reconnect
He's
him.
in and out on the live stream that I'm watching.
Okay, but he's not in the platform. So obviously in production we'll edit it, but
I don't see either of you. You see me. There's something.
Yeah, that he's. I don't see you. So if you're streaming, without Sean. So
that's going. All right, listeners, stand by. We're figuring out Wi-Fi at our conference.
Let's see.
He's provide some hilarious talk track. We can probably provide some hilarious talk track while we are doing this.
While we're thinking about prompt
Actually, how about I answer the other question, because I gave the same talk, right?
Yeah.
So the stream would be interesting from that point of view. Yeah. So we definitely covered the data exposure. It's kind of a bucket of all cross-contamination, model reviewed sensitive data. It's kind of a classic risk, I guess, when somebody trains data model in proprietary code, somebody else uses proprietary code. As happened with some company, and this like bucket of issues when the LLM-based system reveals some data it shouldn't reveal. There's more than one scenario for that. Yeah.
That makes sense.
We covered model theft because it's of that unique nature of how stealable some models are, except for open source, wisely pointed out. We also covered data poisoning. And of course, data poisoning has nothing to do with data exposure. It's more like how do you affect the model outputs manipulating the data. And this comes up with a lot of fun scenarios like poisoning all the public data in some domains so that instead of learning from cat pictures, the model learns from, frog pictures, something. That's a completely made up scenario, but the point is that you can poison data on a large scale, not only poison specific data sets. So Sean is coming back, that's good, so he can answer the last element of that question. So model theft, and then what else was there?
We talked about model integrity violations as well. And this relates very much to supply chain challenges in the production of AI systems, where models can be their specifics of the model and data sets could be violated to change their behavior. This could happen either during the data poisoning stages when the models are being trained, or when they're stored and the weights could be manipulated. We worry about that without anybody knowing, because you can't analyze weights the way you analyze code. They're not human readable, or models could be swapped out with various models during the deployment stage. This is something, in fact, that's been happening in the industry. So it's very important for us to think about the supply chain of AI and supply protection across the model development deployment cycles.
Interesting.
And this sounds kind of more fancy. Okay, you go ahead. Yeah.
No. I was going to pick on Sean for a minute. I was going to go back to something you said. You were saying, SQL is structured. Yeah. But we're just talking about
the LLM machinery.
But doesn't the fact that the LLM machinery can understand
that there's an underlying
natural language suggests that there's an underlying order to natural language, which might not be super apparent to us, but is in fact present. I would just push back on the idea that natural language is
of course.
Actually
you do realize we're going to be here 6 hours later discussing this.
And then Stephen Wolfram's going to fall out of the ceiling and
of course
smack
it's the structure to natural language. Otherwise we won't understand each other. We're looking at the rules of grammar and absorb this. We're LLMs ourselves, and we kind of get trained from our births into understanding language. I think the difference between SQL and natural language is a number of variations that are there. So with SQL, you can easily represent desired and undesired inputs with regexes, for example. Complex regexes sometimes. But with natural language, that's very, very hard.
Yeah, it would be very difficult to regex.
Yeah, it would be very difficult to regex good LLM prompts for it.
And I think that somebody, at this point of the conversation, somebody must mention that the whole data plane, control plane contamination that we have with LLMs, which has been triggering a lot of people in a lot of interesting ways, that you're not going to filter, essentially language is also an API and essentially code to have the model do something, right? So, and filtering natural language in uniquely specific ways is really hard.
And listeners,
I'm thinking of that.
Listeners, what Anton is thinking about here is LLMs are payphones.
Basically says LLMs by
that paper basically says LLMs by mixing the data in the control plane look like payphones. 60 degrees to be able to whistle control tones.
Correct.
And get free phones.
Yes, except for this paper probably going to be published. So. And you mentioned it online.
Let's go to mitigation.
So let's go to mitigation. Something positive and beautiful.
Oh, the good side of it.
Yes, exactly. So and I know I'm slightly obsessed about data governance today. I'm not sure why. But
he was out too late in Vegas, folks.
Yeah. Okay. So some of the mitigations for that seems the same. Like when you look at data poisoning, data exposure, prompt injection in our talk, some of the mitigations are the same, and I'm primarily thinking about controlling data, just access control, for model integrity. So what I'm trying to say is that there isn't some kind of a magic, unique stack you have to buy from a startup. Some of this is more about broad controls applied in AI-specific ways to this. So can you comment on how the mitigations?
Yeah, we've been thinking about this a lot from a Google perspective and our own risk reduction efforts. And I think the question one of our senior execs posed to me the other day was, hey, Sean, you're kind of formulating a new plan for security and privacy. Does that mean we're completely exposed to that? And my answer was no. We're actually already doing probably 90% of what we need to do because we've been very rigorous in our traditional security and privacy practices. And that's our advantage a framework to the rest of the industry. But to do AI security and privacy well, you just need to invest in security and privacy, and then focus on the AI part.
Yeah.
Yes.
This is like the most mundane piece of advice, but also the most correct.
To be good at something, you have to do that thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, but be good at something traditional because the new thing relies on you being good here.
Yeah,
So if you to use a more practical example, if you really suck at container sec, you're gonna suck at AI sec.
If another example,
Yes.
if you don't know where your code lives today, you're probably not going to know where your models
Right,
live
yes,
tomorrow, and therefore
Models live, yeah,
models
that's right,
will be
yeah,
just
yeah.
as affected by the
Oh, then you're in
expectation problem
trouble.
as your code is today. If you don't know
Yes.
how you're sourcing your code that's going to your applications, you'll likely not be able to implement how you're sourcing data, managed data is going to your models, and you're going to have the same problem. So
Yes.
we just need to get tighter with our security and privacy practices within our organization.
Yes.
Don't forget anything that you've been doing in the past, just because AI is everywhere now. In fact, reinvest in what you've been doing in the past because you want to protect AI better.
I think you alienated a whole bunch of startup audience who also all wanted to sell you an AI firewall, and they almost have it. They almost have it. Here it is, version 0.9. Deploy it, and you have it. And suddenly, your strong guy says, "Sorry, you have to do this."
We're still leaving that
not
10 to
AI
20%
firewall
up top that may be unique to AI, and there is a lot of innovation that's going to happen in that space.
Yes.
Google Cloud else is also going to sell some products in that space, but it's not all new. It's not all new, and just because it's not new doesn't mean it's not important. In fact, all of the old stuff is very, very important to succeed with the new stuff. If you just buy the top 20% of solutions and don't invest the 80% that's at the bottom of the iceberg, you're likely going to fail.
This is sad news for vendors, but good advice for security teams.
Right, and also good advice to people who actually mean to build it securely, like us.
Yes.
One of the fun things that we get to ask you to do is predict the future. What do you see coming in securing AI for cloud environments? And
What is the last part of your question?
How do people get ready for that future that you're about to? How do people get ready for that future and then give people advice?
First, predict the future.
Well, let's talk about the risks first.
Yeah.
I think the risks are just gonna get bigger and accelerate over the next 2 years, particularly because and like you don't need to be like an AI data scientist or security professional to know this. Just read the New York Times. Just read the Guardian. AI is a topic for nation states amongst each other. Presidents and the prime ministers are talking about this. They're talking about this because they really value AI and the societal implications of AI. And because AI is so valuable to nation states, to our societies, to public and private entities, it's not just a business thing anymore. It's an opportunity for warfare and attacks. We're already, of course, starting to see this. Again, just read the public information in the New York Times and the Guardian, etc. And because of that, we will see many new attacks over the next 12 to 18 months. Research labs are finding this, academia is finding this, national security labs are finding this, and we're going to see a lot of innovation from Google, from Apple, from Google Cloud, from Azure, from AWS in this space. And new startups are going to come as well. So expect a lot of foundational thinking, a lot of innovation, a lot of tools. But again, I would ask the audience to kind of rest easy that they know 80% of what they need to do. Just do the basics right.
Yes. The basics, that's kind of to me, it goes into the insensitive remarks bucket a little bit because some of the basics like fetch faster, they're well known, but they're not being done for lots of reasons. So, I've been uniquely triggered by saying do the basics because I've said it in the past myself, and then somebody slapped me and said, Anton, we can't just fetch faster or limit access to users or better classify data because some of this have been trying since the, 60s maybe. 60s.
It's very hard.
It's hard.
We talk about them as the secure by default foundations within Google, and it is genuinely hard. Like we have invested within Google 20 years of expertise and dollars in building the secure foundations. And I think it's very, very important for any organization trying to build serious, load-bearing businesses around AI to invest in security and privacy foundations.
Yes, I think foundations is a great word for this, because you think about our security industry, or our software industry. It's been around since the 60s. We've been building buildings
And when you get the
for 5,000 years.
you end up
And when you get the foundations wrong,
and that's
you end
why
up with
5,000 years
Millennium
of practice,
Power.
we still screwed up that.
And that's 5,000 years of practice.
So I think this is a much better word for it.
So I think this is a much better word for it. Foundation.
That's kind of inspiring, and it's actually your line is simultaneously inspiring and depressing.
Yes.
So it's giving me like a weird vibe, and I think Kim achieved the inspiring and depressing prize today.
That's a good prize. Good prize. So the advice then to get ready for the AI revolution that's coming and happening around us is
That's the best advice anybody could walk away with. And I'll tell you, like, this is a piece of kind of knowledge that resonates with company executives. I know this firsthand from talking to executives within Google. People get what foundations mean. People can reason about whether the foundations are secure or not, because they've spent years thinking about this. And then now saying, to do better AI security, we need to invest even more in our foundations, is a message that I found an accepting audience for. Versus, here, read these 100 research papers that just came out of Stanford and MIT over the last year. We need to do 85 brand new things and invest in 3 different vendors.
That's easy.
Or worse, don't forget foundations, forget the entire building. We have the unique new roof paint that you can buy in a SaaS form and spray all over your roof, and suddenly your AI is secure. I'm sorry, but I'm hearing this from some of the novel startups. It's not even not the foundation, not the building, not the reinforcement from outside, but it's freaking roof paint that you can just like apply patterns on the roof, and then you hold the whole building is going to.
But I can't figure out how to dump VC money into foundations. People have not figured that out for 15 years. I was thinking about the turtle example. Yeah. Tell the listeners what you mean by turtles.
So it's not like it wasn't the only case. It wasn't the only example when in Tim's mind maybe I attacked the guest on the podcast, but I rather simply questioned the guest by saying that more than probe to the
Whether or not that company was the right company.
Whether or not that company was the right company because they were so small to address
exactly, like very foundational, truly the very bottom layer of identity. And then to me, and funny enough, they mostly convinced me that yes, startups and smaller companies can in fact build some of the key foundational elements. So maybe there is money in the in novel foundational approaches. So that's actually kind of a fun detour from this.
That is
it's actually
Eli,
really good.
And Eli, who was on that episode with us, and listeners, this is episode like 160.
We'll find it right now.
We'll find it in the show notes.
Yeah. This and this resonates. I'll also say because the upside to doing AI well is so high for businesses, of course for individuals, for societies and governments. There is greater willingness to focus on the hard problems of foundational security and privacy. In fact, you see the emerging demands from the journalists, from the people informers, for motivating larger companies to do security and privacy better. These were demands that they had kind of laid aside over the last few years because they thought it's just too hard of a problem to ask people to solve. But now because the upside for AI is so high, there's a proportionally hard demand to invest more in security and privacy. I think this can work for many people within the organization.
So it would remotivate them to improve security elsewhere, right? So we have one more question before the final question, and I want to ask that, and it's a question about the domain of securing AI or AI security. So we had a couple of interesting debates, I think, on one of the VC episodes, when the question is, do you think in 2-3 years, maybe up to 5, AI security would be its own domain, part of AppSec, part of DataSec, part of some other more traditional security domain, or would it be a separate domain still in, I don't know, pick the time frame yourself.
Certainly, I think in 5 years, and even 3 years is quite into the future, given the velocity of AI development. I think in 3 to 5 year time frame, if AI security is a completely different domain from other security and privacy practices, and I feel in some ways have failed. I believe that over
Really?
the next 2 to 3 years, there's going to be enough innovation in this space and enough foundational first principles thinking in this space that we need essentially tiger teams, task forces, specialized engineering teams in every organization that can really reason about the risks and controls and weakness around AI. But to do this job right, we will think about AI security holistically, along with all the other foundation security elements for data, for applications, for models, for infrastructure. And just like we don't have Java security teams today, just like we don't have C++ security teams
Right.
today, to be sure, these teams do exist when that's a particular area of focus of the organization. But this is not how we...
But we do have cloud security teams.
Yeah.
Yes.
But I'm going to argue in my talk this afternoon that you should stop treating cloud security as an island.
That's
and that
right.
it should really
That's
be
right.
a peninsula.
Wait. Not okay. This is a separate podcast, but Isle is not a peninsula. That's like let's
Yeah.
put a pin in it. Whatever.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I think you're going to the same place. So you need to focus a team on it, but it can't be
That's
separate
right.
from
That's
the
right. Again, like,
right?
This is a live podcast. Harold,
This is a live podcast.
That's why we're doing it live, so people can show up
Next.
this way. Yeah.
I think the way we're structuring our own efforts around AI security within Google, we see the need to have focused, dedicated resources working on AI security for the next 2, maybe 3 years. But then we also are already starting to diffuse that knowledge from the focused resources into our kind of, let's just call it general purpose. And I don't mean that in a bad way at all.
Right.
Folks who really holistically understand security in the various domains. And again, in the long term, if we've solved for the problems enough, and there may be new innovations that cause us to extend this time horizon beyond 3 to 5 years. But I think in 3 to 5 years, unless there are major new innovations that impact security and privacy, I think we would have been able to diffuse the knowledge in the general purpose teams. This will be different for every organization, of course. Like Google just had a head start on this.
Yes, that actually makes sense.
It's very interesting.
okay, that's my
Go with the closing question. I think we have.
Okay, that's my job.
Yeah.
John, I hate to do it because we're 2 minutes over already. One, do you have
Yeah.
recommended reading for our audience? It could be
Art of
anything.
War, Mary Oliver, not
Art of War, Mary
Yeah.
Oliver, not Anton's blog. And 2,
their AI.
do you have a practical tip to help people improve their AI security?
Yeah, these are very, very practical things that I'd recommend people read. Things that I've found compelling of late. The U.S. Cybersecurity Agency, CISA, the UK Cybersecurity Agency, NCSC, wrote some really well-reasoned guidelines for AI security and privacy that are foundational to many emerging regulations and guidelines from public sector in the future, in the near future, in 2025. I recommend people go find that AI cybersecurity framework. Another
put it in the show notes,
well-written document has been from NIST in their risk management framework, and they had an appendix to that as an AI risk and mitigation taxonomy.
That one is heavy reading, though. This is like you do not read it before bedtime. That one is just a no. Hard no before
I
bedtime.
really want to get this.
If we put NIST and CISA recommendations next to each other in the show notes, do they self-destruct each other?
No.
Is that a bad meeting? Oh boy. But you didn't say that about CISA. Like, this is a vote of confidence for CISA. All right. And then,
by the way, just beyond general purpose reading, I would recommend that everybody subscribe to the New York Times and Guardian headlines on AI security and privacy. There's enough happening in the wider world that if you're not aware of societal impacts, if you're not aware of why a CEO, your CISO, your local congressman cares about AI security and privacy, you're missing out on a huge opportunity to leverage their view of upside to promote your work. Of course, watch all the Netflix news. The three-party problem has been particularly motivating for me recently with the AI security and privacy angle that I think exists.
But it switches the threat from robot rebellion to alien invasion. That's cheating. That's cheating.
Yeah.
Okay. One practical tip.
Focus on the foundations.
Focus on the
Yeah.
foundation.
It's the most important thing.
Focus on the foundation.
Sean, I can't thank you enough for joining us.
Well, Sean, I can't thank you enough for joining us today. This has been really fun. We've got topics coming out of it. We've got to talk about hurdles, foundations.
Thanks, guys.
This is a joy. Thank you.
Thank you. So I'm still curious how I am at 99%, you're 20, and you never really uploaded anything.